Well, hello strange people, welcome back to the channel. Just out for a little walk today in the woods. Sit down in the sun, make the most of it. I don't know if you can see behind me, but the sloe trees have the trees have all got sloes on them. I'm sure it's a bit early, but they're all ripe and ready to go, so yeah, if you wanted to get in there and make yourself some gin ready for Christmas, now's the time to do it. Right, I'm going to go find a place to pitch up. I'm going to fry up some sausages and then have a little chin wag. So I'll catch you in a mo. If you've watched this far, then you've seen the intro. And in the intro, the magic kettle's getting its lid blown off in a storm. It's just here that I filmed it. Absolutely epic spot, and I couldn't have planned that any better. Anyway, let's find another one. This one's just a little bit breezy, so we'll head off into the woods and see if we can find a better spot. Right, well I hope you can hear me okay. It's a bit breezy here, but it's not too bad. I'd like to start by saying thank you to everybody that wished me well with my shoulder. Don't know what it was, I really don't. I think it's something in my neck actually, because although I can lift my shoulder fine, it is a little bit sore, so I'll have to get that sorted at some time. But you know what it's like in the country at the moment. Try and get anything sorted, and well, I'm likely to die of old age before I get seen, so I might just leave it and let it heal for itself, which it will eventually. So this AeroPress is an absolute game changer when you're outside. The coffee is gorgeous. Anyway, I've been asked by quite a few people, both on YouTube and social media and in my day-to-day life, how I feel about the lifting of the camping ban on Dartmoor. and I've got to say I'm quite pleased. I'm not displeased by it. It's common sense. If you're not aware, the argument was that camping wasn't an outdoor recreation, which is what it says in the bylaws for Dartmoor, which it most obviously is. The solicitors for whoever paid for the to go against the appeal, I don't know who that was, argued that you were erecting structures which was against the bylaws, that sleeping wasn't a recreation. So you could go out and hike all you want, but put up a tent and sleep, that's not part of the recreation. Funnily enough, by law, sleeping at work, in the caring profession, as one of my daughters is, she's paid to sleep at work. So sleeping can be classed as work, so I don't see why it shouldn't be classed as recreation as well. But those things are all by the by. The ruling was the right ruling. Whether the areas that have been taken off the camping area, there are still places, the Pewtor area, Foggingtor area, King's Tor, those sort of places have all been taken off the camping map, which they had been previously on the camping map, but with the ban they were taken off, and whether they will be reinstated or not, I'm not 100% sure. You ask one lot of people and they'll say the law says they have to be reinstated. You ask another lot of people and they'll tell you that that they don't have to be reinstated. I don't know. There is precedent with Vixen Tor, where the owner has banned anyone even going near the tour. So there is precedent for it to actually stay, with a camping ban. But I don't know. I honestly don't know. For me, there is one small, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, let's put it this way. The MP for Totnes is called Anthony Magnell. He's put forward a bill on the 19th of April. One thing I always do, just before I start, one thing I always do is I write everything down. Everything that might interest me in the future or has interested me in the past, it gets written down. I've got everything from doodles to chord sequences for songs, everything. And one of the things that I did write down was the 19th of April 2023, and Anthony Magnell, the MP for Totnes, put forward a bill to make law that people that camp on the moor can only do so with permission. So, permissive camping. He's also put forward a law, or put forward a motion to be put into law that how can I put it? That the landowners are paid to allow people to camp on their land, similarly to the way they were, I suppose, during the actual ban, when the national park stumped up a lot of money to pay the landowners so that people can camp on their land. And the third thing is it would appear that Mr. Magnell needs to go back to Parliament and correct the record. I would say no more than that, other than he stated in his bill and his reading to Parliament that no landowners were represented on the management committee for Dartmoor National Park. Now, I've read the bill again this morning and it does clearly state that. If that's the case, then the Duchy of Cornwall is the largest landowner within the national park. It owns close to 68,000 acres of the national park. And Lord Roborough, who is one of the people that has banned the camping in and around the Fogging Tor area and down towards King's Tor and all of that area, Swell Tor. He is the second largest landowner. I can't imagine that him or his estate manager, whatever, aren't represented. Southwest Water are quite a large landowner. Can't imagine they aren't represented. It beggars belief that they may be. These are the people that are throwing sewage into our water system and paying £1.5 million bonuses to the CEOs. But anyway, they're a large landowner on the moor, and I can't imagine that they aren't something to do with the management. The MOD possibly, but the one landowner who will be part of the management committee I can't imagine they're not, because the chief executive officer for the national park opened the agenda for their annual general meeting. So I can't imagine for 1 minute that they aren't on the management committee, and that's the national park themselves. Squirrel or something going through the trees. So yeah, I can't imagine they're not on the national park themselves. So I'm asking Mr. Anthony Magnell if he would like to go to Parliament and please, apologise, correct the record, because I can't believe for 1 minute that the national park are not on the management committee for the national park as a landowner. And you have clearly stated in Parliament that no landowners are represented on the management committee. Now, there was one MP that has put in a what's the word I'm looking for? Complaint isn't the right word, but has asked that the bill isn't passed within Parliament and doesn't get a reading in Parliament, and that is Mr. Richard Ford, who is MP for Tiverton, Honiton and other places I've never heard of in North Devon. So if any of you are watching this, please write to Richard Ford and explain to him that you believe Anthony Magnell has misrepresented himself in Parliament and needs to go back and correct the record, because I can't do it. I've tried, and the law in this country is an ass, and I cannot only apply to my MP who actually backed this bill. So there's absolutely no point me writing to my MP. The fact is, he probably won't even go to Parliament within the next 12 months anyway. But even so, there's no point me writing to him. I've tried writing to Richard Ford, but I got a an email back saying that he won't represent me, basically. He can't represent me because I'm not in his constituency. So if you are in his constituency, I can only urge you to write to him. And for that matter, anybody watching this, please write to your MP over your concern for this bill, because they're coming for Dartmoor, and they will come for the Peak District, the Yorkshire Dales, the Lake District, Snowdon. It's not called Snowdon anymore, forgive me. Where is it? The Brecon Beacons aren't called the Brecon Beacons, and I can't remember what they're called, so you'll have to forgive me for that as well. But all of these places, the South Downs National Park, all of these places, they're coming for them. Now, obviously camping is not allowed on those other national parks, but it could end up that your taxpayers' money could end up paying for the landowners within these national parks, and that's not right. All the farmers, and the farmers are nice people, but they are subsidised, and quite well subsidised, and the estates will certainly be subsidised. I know Mr. Anthony Darwell has been subsidised somewhere in the tune of 150 to 170,000 pounds, something like that, and all he wants is more money. This bill is just a way for the rich, the wealthy landowners, to get wealthier. You know, I'm not going to say anything about the fact that Anthony Magnell, the MP for Totnes, was paid £5,000 for his election, you know, costs from Mr. Darwell. I mean, that's probably beside the point. But, you know, Mr. Darwell is in the business of making money. There's a video of him actually saying that. And he wants to make money from his little bit of land. So, and by getting onto the committee, you can see that this is a way of influencing, getting influence on the national park and the uses for the land. So he's not allowed to hunt on that land at the moment, but you can see that at some point in the future he's going to be releasing grouse or whatever onto the moor to be hunted. So I think that's why he's asked his pet MP to bring forward this bill, put forward this bill. Now whether it will pass or not, I don't know. I don't hold up a lot of hope for the Labour Party. They've got enough problems as it is, and well, I just don't hold up a lot of hope for them, to be quite honest. I did think about writing to Caroline Lucas, but her hands will be as tied as mate from Tiverton's. He can't represent me, and nor can she. So the Green Party won't be able to help. So I don't know. You know, it's a ridiculous rule. All I've asked him to do is bring up in Parliament and ask that Mr. Magnell returns to Parliament and corrects the record. There we go. So those are my feelings. Yes, I'm very, very happy that camping has been allowed again on Dartmoor, that we don't have to ask permission, that all the hoops and everything are out of the way at the moment. But this is a sword of Damocles. It may not pass. God hope it doesn't pass. I urge you to write to your MPs stating the reasons why you don't think they should pass, because your taxpayers' money will be going towards the landowners within your national parks. I'm sure of it. I'm sure that Dartmoor is a test case for this. So anyway, I'm happy, but I'm worried. Well, I've had to move away from the spot in the sun for a minute or two. A lot of wasps suddenly appeared, and part of the reason why I didn't camp this weekend is on Thursday I got stung by a wasp, and it got infected. So yeah, that's why I don't particularly want to get stung by another wasp. I don't know what the wasps are like in your part of Britain or the continent or North America, but frankly the jaspers here are bastards. They'll sting you for no reason. That's what they seem to be anyway. Well, I've moved down, I'm pretty much sat on a cliff face here. The wasps were just getting too much. It's absolutely peaceful here. That hissing noise you can probably hear, that's the river about 100 feet below me. And one slip and I'll be in it. But yeah. It's very, very peaceful down here. The odd chitter of a bird. I did catch something going up the tree there just now, but I haven't got my glasses with me, so I haven't got a clue what it is. It's just down there now, flitting about amongst the trees. Beautiful. Well, I made myself another brew, and I'm going to do something that is probably going to cost me subscribers. Do you know what? 7 years in, less than 1,500 subscribers. I don't really care. That's not to say I don't appreciate each and every one of the subscribers I do have. But I'm going to do something that one of the outdoor channels needs to do. To be honest, one of the big outdoor channels needs to do it. And I can understand why they don't, because they don't want to lose subscribers. They make their living out of YouTube. I don't make a penny out of YouTube. So, in fact, it costs me quite a lot, believe me. So, I don't mind actually saying this. Ladies and gentlemen, we are being gaslit. And by that, I'm talking about climate change. Now, this week, or was it last week? Last week I think it was. I heard this extraordinarily arrogant woman telling her viewers or listeners, I heard it on a sort of radio thing that I just happened to pick up. She was telling her listeners that the fires were mostly caused, the fires in Canada, Greece, Italy, where have you, are mostly caused by arson. Now, I've got two things to say about that really. One is, I've never been to Canada. I've been to Montana, which is on the border with Canada, and I can assure you that nobody's going to walk 20 or 30 miles into the woods to light a fire. I can be 100% certain of that. Those wildfires move so quickly that anybody idiot enough to not do it quite close to a road where they can get away, it's just going to be a charred mess. Believe me, I've seen charred messes. Not nice. So that's one thing. The other thing is, how does she think? I mean, some are arson. I'm not denying that. I don't think anybody can deny that. Some of the fires will be arson. But how does she think these fires have been able to sustain themselves? Now, this is a temperate rainforest. The chances of this catching fire are extraordinarily slim. There's a pine forest across the valley. The chances of that catching fire are a lot higher. At the moment, they aren't going to catch fire because it is sodding underneath. Sodden. And this woman is trying to convince you that these wildfires are spreading like they have because of arson. Now, an arsonist can go over there, and I'll give him 3 weeks of the weather we've been having, and I guarantee he won't catch that forest on fire. He might catch a little bit on fire, but he isn't going to catch a huge amount of that on fire. Those forests are on fire because everything is tinder dry. And everything is tinder dry because they have been baked. I've got a friend that lives in Malaga, and the temperature there hasn't dropped below 39 degrees in weeks. Last week it was 43 degrees. That is somewhere between 105 and 110 Fahrenheit. I was never any good at maths. So that, it's been weeks and weeks like that. Weeks and weeks. So while I had a look into this woman, she's earning somewhere around £105,000 a year. And her employer is one Mr. Rupert Murdoch. Probably the most evil man on the planet that isn't in government. Now Mr. Rupert Murdoch sits on the board of Genie Oil. Can you see a slight sort of problem here? He's paying this woman £105,000 a year whilst he is sitting on the board of an oil company. The next one I heard was even stupider. Now this chap, I can't remember his name. He's a historian, Scottish historian. Damned if I can remember his name. But he was trying to convince people that the Met Office were lying to them and taking the temperature with thermometers from the ground. They were giving you ground temperatures. Now, ground temperature, or should I say the temperature that the Met Office and the BBC and others give you, and the same in America, same in South America, same everywhere in the world. They're all taken from thermometers that are, now, it's been a long time since I did geography, but I believe they're housed in something called a Stevenson's hut or something like that. And all the thermometers are sort of 3.5, 4 feet off the floor, off the ground, in a shaded hut, well ventilated, shaded hut. That is the air temperature that it's giving you, the air temperature. If the air temperature is 40 degrees, for example, the ground temperature is going to be much nearer 60 degrees, and all life within that area is going to be dead, basically. I can't imagine anything can survive for very long anyway at 60 degrees. So I had a look into Mr. Oliver and the company that he works for. Oliver, that's right. Oliver. You know, I can't remember his first name now. I had a look into the company he works for. I don't know, I couldn't find out how much he earns, but it'll be a fair packet. Pretty penny. And the television company he works for is owned by, well, it's owned by a consortium which was set up by, I want to say, a chap called Chapman and a chap called Wace. Chapman Wace. And it's Legatum, and they are based in, it's either Abu Dhabi or Dubai. I can't remember which off the top of my head. But they made their money investing in oil. Are we getting a picture here now? Oil companies have got a vested interest in telling you that climate change does not exist. Exactly the same as tobacco companies 40 years ago were telling you that tobacco and cigarettes wasn't causing lung cancer and other diseases. Now, you can believe what you want. You can believe that climate change is man-made or not. That's your decision. For my part, I believe it's man-made. we're in the Anthropocene, and I am pretty sure the last 200 years of industry has caused this problem. Now, if you don't think you're being used, look at what the billionaires are spending their money on. Because while you are being told to give up your cars, they're going to space. They're not building libraries, they're not building what are they called? Places where you hang pictures, museums and things like that. They're not building. That's what the people did in the old days. The mega rich did. They built those kind of things. But Musk and Bezos and that pillock with a beard, whose name I can't, Richard Branson, they're all trying to get into space. Think of the fuel they're burning doing that. What good are they doing to humanity? These people could stop this with their wealth. It makes me sick. But the gaslighting is really what makes me sick. The lies that these people will tell. And I'm calling them out as lies. Arson is a symptom of climate change. And it's not I'm a bit lost for words really. I'm quite angry about it all. The problem we've got is that nobody trusts BBC anymore, and I'm pretty sure nobody trusts BBC or whatever they call themselves, CBS. Nobody trusts the main media channels anymore, because they have been less than great with the truth. So you've left with, what was it called, talk radio, CBeebies here in the UK, and I've noticed a couple of YouTubers as well with over 100,000 subscribers talking absolute shite. So it needs calling out. My 1,246 subscribers, probably 1,000 tomorrow. You know, you're not going to make any difference, but you need to understand that you're being gaslit. You know, my favourite subject, the Bronze Age, and I've said it before on this channel, in 1200 BCE, there was a climate change in the northern hemisphere, and the people moved down off the hills. And I've said it before about up on the moor. The people moved down, you know, they didn't all move in one go, they moved in dribs and drabs. You know, some gave up. It happened in the 19th century, that's why, and in the 20th century. That's why you've got places like Foxtor Farm and Nuns Cross Farm and Ditsworthy Warren, empty farm buildings, and it's the same all over the country, I'm sure. They moved down because of climate change, because it got wetter and cooler. Meanwhile, in the Eastern Mediterranean, you had great empires. You had the Hittites, you had the Egyptians, the Babylonians, Crete, Greece. Around about 1200 BC, around about that time, there was also climate change in the Middle East, but down there it was heat and drought. Quite ironic really, isn't it? We're in the middle of a really cool period up here, and in the Mediterranean they're baking. So there is a similarity there, obviously not quite the same. There's a cave in Israel. I can't remember the name of the cave now, but they can track rainfall for the last 140,000 years in this cave, and what they've seen is that it was a gradual decline in the rainfall. It wasn't a relatively sudden warming, it wasn't a sudden decline in rainfall, it wasn't particularly sudden cooling up here, it was gradual. And along with other things, because it wasn't just climate change, there was warfare. There was something called the Sea Peoples that came from, they think came from Italy and Sardinia, but what drove these people onto the sea to raid these empires, I don't think we'll ever know, but there was something called the Sea Peoples that were bringing war to the area. Natural disasters, so Eastern Mediterranean is, you know, big on earthquakes, as we saw, what, 6 months ago in Turkey. Possibly diseases and climate change, and it brought down all of the empires bar Egypt. And writing was lost for hundreds of years because of this. People forgot how to write. They weren't exactly knocked back to the Stone Age, but it wasn't far from it. But it took thousands of years. The changes we're going through now are taking, well, it's been 200 years and the planet is warming up. We've had, what was it, the warmest July, warmest June on record on the planet. The seas have reached, I can't remember what it is now, but I think it was an average of 21 degrees worldwide. I think the sea in Florida, did it not reach over 100 degrees? I can't remember now. That seems like an excessive amount, but that would be boiling point. Probably not 100, but it certainly got very warm. The seas around the British Isles are warmer than they've ever been. I don't know what to tell you. We're being gaslit. I'm not asking you to believe me, I'm not asking you to like and subscribe off the back of this. What I'm asking you to do is use a bit of critical thinking. And when somebody tells you, who's a radio host, there's no such thing as climate change, when every climate change expert in the world is telling you there is, ask yourself why these people are doing this. And you'll see at the end of the day, it will take you down a little rabbit hole, but it won't be a very deep rabbit hole. Rupert Murdoch is on the board of Genie Oil. The owner of GBB's made his money investing in oil. It's not rocket science. You've just got to have a little critical thinking. So who would you rather believe? Some nutty Scottish historian or David Attenborough? I know who I believe. And he's not a scientist, but he's made the natural world his. It's been his job for nearly 60 years. So that's a pretty good record. And if he's telling you, why is he wrong and some radio host right? That's all I'm saying, really. It does need a big YouTube channel, somebody with a bit more eloquence than me to actually call this out. But as I said, I can understand why they wouldn't, because I'm going to lose subscribers over this, I'm sure of it. I'm sure it's called a Stevenson's hut. If you stayed this long, thank you. If you want to like. If you want to comment, please comment. I will get back to you. Unsubscribe if you want to. Subscribe if you want to. And I don't normally say that. Catch you on the next one.